Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome inside the Ringer, presented by Blue Ring Sports. As always, I'm your host, Matt Essex. Today's claim: the President of the United States forges a new alliance between NFL players, coaches, and owners. But first, it was a busy weekend in sports, so let's get to today's headlines. This weekend's slate of NFL games were marked by protests following comments made by President Donald Trump on Friday evening in Alabama. The president said any player who doesn't stand for the national anthem was a son of a bitch and should be fired. His remarks drew widespread condemnation from players, coaches, owners, and other sports figures, including LeBron James and Steph Curry, who voiced their concerns with Trump's rhetoric and attacks on free speech. More on this later in today's claim. Speaking of the games themselves, plenty of action from around the league yesterday. In Philadelphia, the Eagles won on a last-second field goal by rookie Jake Elliott to knock off the New York Giants 27-24 in the Eagles' home opener. Carson Wentz completed a pass to Alshon Jeffrey with 1 second on the clock, putting the rookie in a position to make the kick. The Eagles improved to 2-1, while the Giants dropped to 0-3, leaving their season in doubt. The Baltimore Ravens made their maiden voyage overseas to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars in the first London game of the year and were promptly shellacked 44-7. Mercedes Lewis caught 3 touchdown passes, his first since week 2 of last season. The loss marks the worst defeat in Ravens history, margin of victory-wise, and Joe Flacco, who has now turned the ball over 9 straight games, threw for only 28 yards before being pulled in the fourth quarter in favor of Ryan Mallett. Mallett promptly led the Ravens on a touchdown-winning drive in garbage time against backup Jaguar players. The Washington Redskins upset the Oakland Raiders on Sunday Night Football at FedEx Field 27-10. Washington's defense sacked Derek Carr 4 times, while Monte Nicholson and Kendall Fuller both picked off the Oakland quarterback. Kirk Cousins threw for 365 yards and 3 touchdowns, including one to second-year wideout Josh Doctson out of TCU, who recorded his first NFL touchdown after missing most of last season with injuries. The Redskins head to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs next Monday night. Meanwhile, the Raiders will be at Mile High to play division rival Denver on Sunday afternoon. The Green Bay Packers defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 27-24 in overtime thanks to a field goal by Mason Crosby. The win means Aaron Rodgers has now defeated every team except the one that drafted him, the Green Bay Packers. Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger have also defeated every team except for the one that they drafted for. Drew Brees has beaten every team except for the Baltimore Ravens. Only Peyton Manning and Brett Favre have defeated all 32 NFL teams. Other scores from around the league: the Bills beat the Broncos 26-16, the Saints defeat the Panthers 34-13, Bears upset the Steelers at home 23-17 in overtime, and the Falcons beat the Detroit Lions 30-26. In Major League Baseball, the Yankees are returning to the postseason following a 2-year absence. New York still has a chance to win the AL East, but trail the Boston Red Sox by 5 games, meaning the Yankees will more than likely host the AL Wild Card game next week against the Minnesota Twins. The LA Dodgers have secured the NL West for a 5th straight season and are now 1 win away from 100 on the year, leaving the Central as the only division crown up for grabs in the National League. The Cubs currently hold a 5.5-game lead over the Milwaukee Brewers and a 6-game lead over the St. Louis Cardinals. Division can be wrapped up tonight if the Cubs win and Brewers lose. The Arizona Diamondbacks will also be returning to the postseason following a 6-year absence to host the NL wildcard game next week in Phoenix. The Diamondbacks wrapped up their spot in the postseason with their 3-2 win over the Miami Marlins on Sunday afternoon. The team is likely to face either the Colorado Rockies or Milwaukee Brewers, with the St. Louis Cardinals also having an outside chance at the postseason as well. Jose Bautista has played in what is most likely his final game as a member of the Toronto Blue Jays on Sunday, going 2 for 4 with an RBI, runs scored, and a walk. Bautista was pulled in the top of the 9th inning while the sound system played Jose over the loudspeakers, and fans gave him a standing ovation. Bautista returned to the field to give a tip of the cap and wave to the fans. Toronto won the game 9-5. In college football, the AP Top 25 remains unchanged after a compelling week of football. The Oklahoma State Cowboys, number 6, fell at Stillwater convincingly to TCU, catapulting the Horned Frogs into the top 10 at number 9. While the Cowboys dropped to number 15. Number 12, Florida State, and number 24, Oregon, dropped out of the poll entirely following their upsets to NC State and Arizona State, respectively. Maryland quarterback Kasim Hill is expected to miss the remainder of the season with a broken ankle suffered in the second quarter of Saturday's 38-10 loss at home to Central Florida. Hill, a freshman from Washington, D.C., took over when Terrell Pigram tore his ACL in the Terrapins' Week 1 victory over Texas. Max Bortenschlager is expected to handle the Terrapins' quarterbacking duties for now and is expected to start Saturday when the Terps open Big Ten play at Minnesota. You can catch that game at noon on FS1. Dwayne Wade has agreed to a buyout with the Chicago Bulls in exchange for returning $8 million on his contract. The 12-time All-Star and 2006 Finals MVP now becomes a free agent and is expected to draw interest from the San Antonio Spurs, Miami Heat, and Cleveland Cavaliers. Don't forget Monday Night Football tonight. Dallas taking on Arizona in the desert. Both teams enter with identical 1-1 records. John Gruden and Sean McDonough will have that call for you over on ESPN at 8:30. And you can also listen to the game on at Westwood 1 with Boomer Esiason and Kevin Harlan. Check your satellite radio provider for channel information. Full recap of the game tomorrow's show. Okay, so on today's claim, we were originally going to talk about player safety, college football, pro football, following the news that Patriots tight end Aaron Hernandez was found to have stage 3 CTE in his brain. And there were a couple of targeting calls for both UCLA and Stanford this weekend. But events precipitated that, and so we'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. Today, I want to talk about what transpired over the weekend. From the president's comments on Friday night to player reaction before the games yesterday. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, don't like football, one of the two, you've been aware of what happened yesterday. On Friday evening, the President of the United States called people who are exercising their fundamental constitutional First Amendment rights sons of bitches, and riled up a crowd in Alabama by saying that owners should fire these players. Now, here's the thing. This is a sports show, so we're not going to delve too much into politics. You want that? Fox News and MSNBC are waiting for you right now. But every player around the league has a fundamental right to exercise their First Amendment rights, whether you agree with it or not. You know, that's the thing that makes this country great. If you want to speak up, you're allowed to speak up. And so, for the longest time, Colin Kaepernick was the only one who would draw attention to that. And then this season, you've seen players like Seahawks defensive end Michael Bennett, who was arrested by Las Vegas police for, I don't know. And you see the video of him on the ground being treated horribly by police, drawing attention to injustice in America. Now, for years, players have been seen as, highfalutin, lofty out there, making money, not caring about causes. So now players have causes. And when the President of the United States comes around and starts insulting players, that's a problem. You're supposed to be the uniter-in-chief, not the divider-in-chief. And in January, he released a tweet saying, he was all in favor of freedom of speech. And so, Roger Goodell today said, the way we reacted today and this weekend made me proud. I'm proud of our league. I gotta admit, the president's comments this weekend have managed to do something nothing else has possibly done in the league's history. President Donald Trump has managed to get players, owners, coaches, league reps, umps, all on the same team. All league-wide condemnation. The only owner we haven't heard from is Jerry Jones. Jerry Richardson released a statement this morning. You can go check that out. And so, you have players on board here. And you see people like Redskins owner Dan Snyder Jaguars owner Shad Khan standing arm in arm, locking arms with their players, saying, you know what, I support you. I support your right to protest. I support your First Amendment rights. If you got the Jaguars game, I don't know if you did. I know it was on the air here in Baltimore and down in Jacksonville, and it was broadcast live on Yahoo, but 9:30 a.m. to get on a computer to watch football. If you do, great. If not, also great. But if you caught the anthem in London, you would have seen Ray Lewis on the ground on his knees with players like Terrell Suggs and Mike Wallace. You know, Ray Lewis is arguably the greatest player in Ravens history. And he had tears in his eyes. And so, when you've got players like Ray Lewis holding arms with his brothers in arms, that says something. You know, there are injustices going on in America. And to have, you know, Ray Lewis and his team, you know, it says something together. Now, if you watch the Sunday night game, Redskins defeat Raiders 27-10, almost the entire Oakland bench was sitting. That speaks volumes. They've said this is probably going to be a 1 week thing, but it speaks volumes. Now, this all started, keep in mind, this all started when the President of the United States got into a Twitter war with Steph Curry. Saying, oh, Steph Curry doesn't want to come to the White House. Steph Curry, fine. You know what? Don't come to the White House. Team's not invited. Fine. I really don't understand the point of going to visit the White House anyway for any team. I mean, I guess it's been going on for a while. Pittsburgh Penguins last night received an invitation and have said that they were going to accept. Sidney Crosby coming out this morning and saying he's excited to go and supports the team's decision. And that's what makes sports so great. You can have differing opinions. You can be on one side and say, I support the protest, or one side say, I don't. I mean, go around the league, look at the comments yesterday. You had people like Drew Brees saying, you know what, I fully, you know, want to stand and support, you know, our troops, flag, hand over the heart. That's great. But he also said that, you know, any of his teammates who want to kneel have that right to do so. Derek Wolfe yesterday comments, you know, and I think the Derek Wolfe comments, if you read what happened, what he said beforehand, it's taken out of context. Go on YouTube, find when he talks. It's really an interesting segment. Derek Wolfe was saying, you know, people have died to support that flag, and, you know, if you don't like America, why are you here? And it's taken out of context. If you take a look at it like that, it seems really bad. But if you watch the comments, it's another player exercising their fundamental right to freedom of speech. So you can't go around saying, oh, well, you know, players have a right to take a knee, but Derek Wolfe doesn't have a right to express his freedom of speech as well. So it's really interesting what's gone on this weekend. And let's just hope that, you know, players, coaches, owners, and all are on the same page here that, you know, you do have a fundamental right to freedom of speech. And, you know, it draws attention to injustice in America. So, interesting enough, most of the protesting teams yesterday lost. Oakland was on the bench most of the time, lost. Ravens had more protesting players than the Jaguars, lost. Steelers didn't come out for the anthem, lost. So, really interesting. Well, that'll do it for this edition of The Ringer. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. And remember, even when we're not on, Blue Ring Sports always is. Read the latest at blueringsports.wordpress.com. And catch another episode of The Ringer tomorrow afternoon at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific. This has been Matt Essex saying so long. Have a good day.